second floor, whatever we want that to be. So you can create a folder structure for any large project so you can organize it. And then of course you can put in any number of orders inside each of those. So I might call this one, you know, room 101 and save it. And then I could even make a copy of that if I wanted to. Hey, now this is room 103, so on and so forth. And I get a tree structure so I can organize the project however I want to. Even to the point if I decided later, I'm going to make another one here and call it second floor. I decided later that, hey, this room actually isn't on the first floor. It's called 103, but it's on the second floor, so I can just drag and drop that and reorganize that at any time I want to. The SQL database that we use doesn't really keep track of the paths of where these things are located. It's just looking for the name of the order, so you can organize it and reorganize it any way you need to. Okay?
Okay, I guess we're not real clear on how that works. So say you have in your drawing space there, say you had 2 rooms drawn and you only wanted to send one of them out to production.
Okay.
How would you go apart, you know, splitting that up?
All right. So inside this particular order, I actually have 2 rooms drawn, you're saying. They're not actually separate orders. It's just room 101 and room 103 are all together, right?
Right.
So that's a case where we would go to Production Manager then to say how we want to release something. Of course, we can release this entire drawing, whatever it is, all at one time if that's what you want to do, or we can release it in any type of an organizational fashion that you want.
Okay.
We have a standalone program called the Organizer. And so I go up here, and I think I put those in this room. Room 103. Maybe it was room 101. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to be able to come in here and take all the items that are in this and I want to be able to release these to production. I want to release just the 4 or 5 or 10 or 12 in one room at one time rather than all of them at the same time. That's what you're really asking me, right?
Right.
Okay. So what I can do is I can come in on this order and I can say, hey, I want to put this order into production. Okay. Even though it has multiple items that are all in different rooms, I want to put the whole order into production. So I just come in and say, hey, I want to put it into production. You really can't do anything with it until you say, hey, I'm ready to go to production.
Okay.
We go into our Production Manager, and now I want to create a new production order. I'm just going to call this room 103 split, whatever you want to call it. I'll get rid of the word production order here. Inside of Production Manager, any parts that you have said, hey, these are ready for production, and they haven't been produced will show up down here on this bottom screen. You can see that very well. So you see I had a couple of other projects that were in here.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point now I can come in here and I can say which of these parts do I actually want to release. I've got 1,000 parts in here and I want to only release certain parts, either by material or by what they are. You use the example that you want to do your door separately.
Yes.
So I'd say, okay, I want to add those parts up here to this particular production order. So I've got this part, that door, which takes it out of the list below. It's no longer available to be running another production order because I'm going to go ahead and run it. Okay, and I want to run this door.
So
now these two doors are now part of this production order, or whatever it is that you want. I want to run all the sides. I want to run.
Do you have to then go and select each door individually, or is there a certain selection that you can select all doors in that particular order?
Yep, so we can actually set up filters, whatever you want to do. So I can come in here and I can set up some you would probably want to set up a pre-existing, hey, I just want to get based on a construction principle or a material or whatever it may be, have a pre-existing condition. You can set up all different types of conditions here using different fields from the database. Okay. Part type or the size, you can go by the part name, whatever you want to do, set up any type of conditions that you want to, so it'll only show you those parts. Hey, that's all I want to see, so I can select them all at once. No. And if you want to, you can select multiple parts at a time. You know, it's a Windows program, so I can hold the control button, pick, hey, I want to pick those three and add them to it. Hold down Shift and pick a group of them and add it to it. Whatever it is you want to do. Okay, and you just set up your production run.
Okay.
Hey, these are in this case, these are the things that I want to run. So then we go ahead and just run those things. Okay. You also set up your output. I set up one for cut-write output, and of course you can go create as many different outputs as you want. This particular one just creates the files, the DXF files, and the PNX file that I need to run them in cut-write. So I set that up. If you have multiple machines, you can set up output. Hey, I wanted these parts to go to my saw and my point-to-point, whatever type of output you want to have. Okay, and then once I say that's what I want to do, then these are the parts I'm going to run. I green check it and process all the files out. Go into cut-write, make my nest, whatever I'm doing. And I apologize, I don't really know what your process there is, but that's what I had set up for you.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple to do. You have a lot of you have a lot of flexibility with it.
Okay. That works for that one.
When you were talking like order,
and of course you can also, if you just want to release the entire order, then we wouldn't even have to go under Production Manager. We can just say, hey, I just want to release the whole order. In this case, I would just say, take this order, save as, and those are the two boxes that I would need to check. Automatic program generator. In this case, if I'm going out to make a nest, that's going to create my DXF files that I need so I can get all my machining into cut-write. Or if I'm going to a point-to-point, then would automatically create whatever files I need for my point-to-point or anything I'm writing directly to, Ganomat, whatever it is. Process data transfer is an extra box I need for cut-write to get all the label information over there. So I would check those two boxes. Yep, hey, I want to release that. Now that's everything on this particular order without going and picking and choosing. I just want to release everything. Can have multiple machines set up. In this case, I'm just going DXF to cut-write, what I just did. So, okay, and then I'm ready to go. Go over to cut-write, make my nest, create my G-code. So having a production manager, that gives you more flexibility. If you don't have it, all you can do is release the order itself. I kind of say that if you're just going to a point-to-point, you could do one part at a time if you wanted to. But you can release the entire order itself,
Larry,
or you can go out and do pick and choose pieces, whatever you want. Go ahead.
They're nesting, Larry, with the SNX.
Nested base?
Yeah.
Okay. No worries.
Do you have anything? Well, I was going to ask.
And FYI, I've connected a couple of SNXs.
We got one question for you, Larry.
When you were talking about orders,
Shoot.
is that normally like just a room? Or is that the whole job when you're saying order?
Within WoodCAD CAM, one drawing constitutes an order.
Okay. And
so in this case, I've got this. Yep, go ahead.
Is that normally the whole job, or is it normally a couple rooms or one room?
What I typically recommend, and you probably already do this, is you're only going to want to create an order for what you want to produce at one time. You know, unless you're an extremely large, you know, like Stevens Industry type company where you're going to release 1,000 cabinets at once, you wouldn't want that many in an order. So maybe an order might be, if I'm doing a bank, it might be the teller line might be an order. The check desk might be another order. If it's a school, maybe I'm going to have an order that has these 3 rooms in it that are relatively similar that I want. Whatever it is that would constitute a group of products, we call them articles in WoodCAD CAM, for a production release that makes sense for your company.
Okay.
The typical production run for you, how do you like to handle it?
Well, I mean, what we do right now is we draw up basically the entire job as one job file, and then we split it out per room from there. We can just filter out what rooms we want to send to the CNC and create code just per room or per cabinet. So right now, like I said, every job that we have in our system is basically one file, and then we filter it out from there within the file.
Gotcha. So we're just a little bit different process here. For a large project, what we would do is create our project, our different rooms within that project, engineer each room, and then create our 2D drawings for each of those rooms. And I know for submittal purposes, you need all of those to be into one drawing. So at that point then, I would have a submittal set order, if you will, where I can then go in and bring all of the 2D drawings from all of those 10, 20, 50, 100 rooms, whatever it is, into one drawing so I can do my submittals.
Okay.
Basically what you're already doing, just a little different approach to it.
Yep, that's what we're getting from it. We're comfortable with how that's all split up. I guess our next question on the list then would be kind of the die walls. I've watched several YouTube videos of how it's constructed and everything else, but it seemed to be always the same wall. If you could, real quick, possibly just show us some type of example of a wall with a drop down and how you would go about doing that, if it's possible, or if you have one on hand.
Yep, no worries. I probably have something here we can use. Hopefully I put it on my desktop. Sample wall, okay. So let's say that this is the basic cut through the wall. I'm just going to you guys work metric or imperial?
Imperial.
No worries, I'm fluent in both. So I'm just going to start a new order. Oh, cancel. New order. Paste this in. And then we want don't need you. Give me just a second. I'll set up a little bit here.
Yep. And then also just to give you an idea of what we're kind of looking for too in terms of the parts on here. So I know you can, like, you have a front panel, your back panel, and your wall structure. How are those panels labeled? And can you just like click on the panel itself and rename it however you want to? Or how is that all sorted out in terms of panel IDs?
What we use is we call it manufacturing information. We assign manufacturing information to various parts, and of course we can pre-assign all that. The manufacturing information tells us what the name of the part is going to be, and then we also have the option to say, hey, do we want to include this in our bill of materials? Do we want to include it in the cut list, and do we want to generate a CNC program? I mean, as we know, sometimes you have parts that are maybe stock parts, or you're cutting it out of scrap at a chop saw or whatever. I want to see it in my bill of materials, but I don't necessarily want to send it to my CNC, so we'll give you that flexibility. But that's what we call it, is manufacturing information. And I'll show you here as we go through.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll say that this is the cross-section of the wall that I want to build, and we'll just maybe do 3 straight sections with a drop down in the middle, like for an ADA. That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly, yep.
All right. So let's say I'm just do a quick extruded. Normally when I do training, I don't just do the extruded because that doesn't fit every situation, but for a quick demo to show you we can do it, it's an easy way to do it. So we'll do like a 60-inch piece here, 48 wide there, and a 60 wide here. So I would use Object Designer for this, and we're going to add an Object Designer article. We have 3 different types of articles. We have the Article Designer article. You've probably seen it where they pull it up to snap a cabinet together. It doesn't have to be a cabinet. It could be a countertop. You could even build a die wall that way. It's just a bounding box of parts. How do you want them to go together? Object Designer is more for your custom one-of-a-kind, like reception desk, tower lines, any type of die wall structure that you need. And then we have a Part Designer. That's for your just one-of-a-kind parts. Hey, I'm building a desk for Jerry Jones, and he wants a Dallas Cowboy star on the front of it, so I need to make a star. All right, so once we've done that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that these are my initial entities. And the reason I do that is just so I can freeze and thaw them and get them out of my way here. Select, there we go. So that just gives me a button where I can hide that and get them out of my way if I need to. In Object Designer, we really create, it sounds bad to say part by part, but that's really what it is. What is the side view of the part, and what's the top view of the part? It could be a straight line, it could be an arc, could be some weird shape, whatever it may be. We just have to tell the program, and when you're looking at this part from the side and the top, here's what it looks like. So I typically start out from the side because we all look at what's the cross section of this thing look like, and then what kind of path does it follow from the top. So I always start from the side. It doesn't matter which way you start. The program doesn't really care, so just FYI. So I'm going to come in here and add what we call segments. These segments have all of the data that we need for the parts. So it has what we call a part definition, and there's a material assigned to the part definition. I'm looking over on the left. I'm trying to circle it for you.
Yep, we see it.
But I could have some preset parts created. I don't think I do. Maybe if I wanted to have one that's called die wall plate or something. And you can always make these on the fly, whatever you want it to be. I can go pick a material, any material that I want that to be. Say, hey, I always make my die wall plates out of this material. Maybe it's particle board, maybe it's veneer core plywood, whatever it is. So anytime I call up that part definition, I get that particular material. So now this particular part is now called a die wall plate, and it has that material. And since you asked about it, I'll run back to that real quick. And at the part, what we call the part definition level, you have control over every edge. It doesn't matter. This one is just a rectangular part, but if it's some type of a shape, I'm going to select this die wall shape. We keep track of all of the edges, and you can assign any type of edge treatment to any edge. However many there are, doesn't matter if they're straight, radius, whatever. You can also include specific machining with any part definition. And for a drywall stud, maybe I've got a cutout for a wire chase that I want to always bring in, so I can include that. This particular one does have one. And as far as the part name, we assign manufacturing information. So we create all of our manufacturing information. What do we want to call them? Hey, it's an adjustable shelf, it's a drywall plate, whatever it is, and then here's our checkboxes, whether or not we're going to cut these, include them in the bill of materials, and so on. And of course, you can pre-create for drywalls. I always tell my students, my customers, hey, let's create some plates, let's create some studs, let's create outside panels, inside panels, removable panels, transaction tops. So we have all of those ready to go. You got to create them once, and then you can use them over and over again.
Okay.
All right, so this will probably bore you for just a minute. I'm going to go in and add these segments so I can create parts for you. And you know, you can pick different part definitions, so I'm just going to leave them all standard for this demonstration. All right, so that's basically all the 3/4 inch parts that I've got on here. If I freeze out my initial entities, that's what I've got so far. And I do have some other parts in here that I need. So, for example, I'm going to make this top a work surface. I would still come in and assign the same side view segment, and you'll note right away that it's the wrong thickness, because it's based on our part definition that we're using and the material that's assigned to it. I also have these little pieces of 1/4 inch here. So typically I would go through and just assign them all and then come back and select my parts and reassign my part definitions. You can also just on the fly, hey, I'm okay with the part definition that I have. I just want to change the material. So you can on the fly say, I want to pick a new material. Get a drop-down box with things that you've used recently. Or you can hit your ellipsis, take you into your list of materials and pick whatever you want. Maybe I want this to be a 1/4 inch MDF.
Okay.
You see that automatically adjusts the size of that to that material. So now it is the right size, right thickness. And I'll do the same thing here. We'll just pick a different, I don't know if I've got it here, just 1 1/8 quarts, how's that? All right, so I pretty much got my side views. If I freeze my initial, I can see I've got all my parts for my side view. That'll just be a stud, maybe one of the other parts there. Whatever it is your configuration is that you're building. Now it's really just a simple matter of saying, okay, I've got my side view, what do I want to use for my top views? And how do I want to put it together there? In this case, just to make this quick, we're going to go ahead and create our parts, because I'm just going to follow these polyline paths. And we always create parts from 2 views. What's the side view of it? What's the top view of it? And you can do multiple parts at once. You can do single parts. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say parts from 2 views. and I'm going to pick everything except for the countertop in this case. Let me redo this. I need one at 60. 48 and 60. That's my side view. That's the top view for those two sections. I didn't specify to the program what my top view was. It knows I need side views and top views, so it's basically saying, hey, I see you've picked these 8 side views. You didn't pick any top views, but you have a couple that are undefined. And it's going to make an assumption. Do you want those to be top views? Oh yeah, I forgot. So yes, thank you. I do. Since they're polyline paths, it now wants to know how am I going to apply this to that side view. Hey, is this polyline you gave me, is that, here at the front of the countertop? Is it at the middle of the die wall? Does it match a soffit that's 8 feet away? Where does this polyline come into play with respect to what you have selected? So I can just insert and say, okay, I've given you a line that's right here or wherever it may be. So I wanted to create those parts along that polyline and place them right there. Okay, so that's all the parts that I selected for that particular cut. Now I want to make my middle section here part from 2 views. I want this to follow this polyline. Same thing, I didn't define it, so yes, and I want that to be right here. So really it's just an issue of what is every part, what exactly do we want this thing to be? Create it as you go. All right, now the countertop, you're probably thinking, hey, what's he going to do with the countertop, right? The countertop's going to be a little bit different, and it's pretty long, so I got to figure out. I have to be an engineer and figure out where I want to break it. However, you guys arrive at that decision in your company, project manager, production manager, whoever makes that decision. So I know that I probably want to split it. I'd probably split it like along here, right at one of the breaks, one side or the other. This is 108, so I can make that in one piece. In this case, I don't have a straight, I can't just extrude one or the other along a path because it actually has a different shape to it. So I have to be able to tell this, hey, what does this shape look like? And I'm going to have to figure that out here real quick. So this guy comes in 25, okay, that worked out. And this guy is 31. So I might just draw some construction lines up here. Hey, I know it's 120, 168 overall by, what did I say this was? 25, 31. By 31. So if it was a rectangle, that's what it would look like. And I know I want to go 108 here. Need 2 pieces. Okay. And this is 48. So I need a polyline now. This top is going to, I'm going to build it to look something like this. Going to freeze. You can also freeze your parts and get them out of the way so that you can see what you're doing. That was the inside of my wall. This actually sticks inside the wall a distance. So how far is that? It is 1 3/4 inches. in plan view, that's where that would be. And I don't have to do this as a polyline, it's just a rectangle, but we will just for fun.
And then Larry, as you're doing this, as you put that other one together, can you show us, I know you had it selected as quartz, but if it was like a PLAM top, how you would do joinery in between the two pieces? Like say you had tight bolts in between there. Is that something that you could show us real quick?
Yeah, I think I probably can. I think I have one, I'll check my database. I think I have one basic tight joint fastener set up. Again, that's something that we go through in training is company-specific type hardware. We show you how the hardware works, how to bring a drawing block in, how to add machining. Yeah, I may have one. I'll take a look here.
How fast and how easy it was just to create a joint in between the two parts you're making there.
Yep, I understand. Okay. So I know what I want these parts to look like. That's going to be my tops. Turn my parts back on so we can see them. I think I probably moved this the wrong way. I did. Yep, that looks better. And of course I wanted to put a radius on this. No problem. We'll fill it that with a 1-inch radius. Just whatever it is that you want the parts to be. Build up, if we were doing a build up top, what do those look like, all that kind of good stuff. To me, and I think what you'll find out and what your engineers will find out is it really is more time consuming now for them to engineer the parts and pieces than it really is to create it in WoodCAD CAM. They're going to spend more time doing the engineering than they are actually laying it out.
Okay.
All right, so in this case, since these are shapes, it doesn't really matter which one of these I select. It's only going to be using that information for the material. I could just have a 1-inch piece here if I wanted to, but we'll just go ahead and pick that for both of them. And again, I didn't define my top view, so it's assuming, hey, you want those to be top views. Yes, we do. Okay. Okay. And then whatever else, transaction tops, all that kind of stuff. It's the same process, just part by part. What is this part? What's it look like from the side? What's it look like from the top?
Okay, all that's making sense to us in terms of how you would build like multiple shaped stud walls and stuff like that. The next biggest concern on my end, on our end, would be we do a lot of what we call smart assemblies or smart parts. In the email I sent Roger, I kind of put an example in there. Basically, if I put a box inside of a traditional cabinet, say we're doing a trash rollout assembly, and it's like a custom rollout with like a box inside of a cabinet with a cutout on top of the box. Is it possible for that interior box to be smart to the outside cabinet, and same with the cutout in relation to location? If that makes any sense to you?
Yes, absolutely. That makes absolute sense to me.
Okay. Because we do a lot of items like that, and we do a lot of items in terms of like smart routes. Say you have a, a normal cabinet with a ventilation route on the bottom of the process. Does that route, can that route automatically lengthen and shorten with the width of the cabinet if you make it narrower or wider?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously I don't have any type of an insert like that, but the process that you would go through is going to be just like this. So I've come into my article designer group here, and I've created an article that's very large. I've made it 36 by 150 by 116, or whatever it may be. You can apply this to any space article that you're creating. In this case, I want to be able to some articles and put them in, take one article and put it inside another article, basically, right? And have it be smart to the space I'm putting it in.
Correct.
All right, so you've probably seen them where we do linear divisions to set up spacing. They're just ratios, or they can be whole numbers, whatever you want it to be.
Yep.
And I want to split it up into 5 equals. I want to split it up into 4 equals. I can make it specific dimensions. Hey, this one is 32 inches, whereas the last one is 26 inches. The other two are equal, whatever you want that space to be. And I'm using what we call a virtual part here. I'm just using this for a split, to split it into what I call zones, so that I get 4 spaces in here, or whatever the space may be. And of course, you can name these. This is, we'll say that one's right. This one is the mid-right. And I always teach my students to make sure that they do this, because you can get some fairly complex articles going in and you have to go back and make some modifications. It's hard to find what you're looking for if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the process here is what we call an article zone. I want to go pick an article, in this case a cabinet, out of my library to put into this space and have it conform. And to show you that it does conform, I'm going to put the same article in all 4 spaces, even though they're all different sizes. So I'm just going to pick a upper cabinet, probably be easy enough. So there I want a 2-door upper. Here I want to, article zone, same 2-door upper, and you see it gets added to your list of recently used, so speed things up. Okay, so for this case, that's what I want my article to be. So I've taken the same article and basically create different size spaces into an overall that I want them to conform to. And let's take it a step further. Let's say that I want to take this particular article. Actually, let me look at something here real quick. I think I may have this depth hard locked. Yeah, I do. Let me unhard lock that real quick. And now we'll refresh the whole thing here. So hey, I want to come back and I want to take, you see I've put some little Kiku clips on this guy, playing around for somebody. I want to take, and actually I don't want this guy to be the same height. I want to leave a space underneath here for whatever purposes, whatever your particular application may be. So that's really just an issue of changing the size of the space. So this space right here, I need to change that. So I'm going to split that up with a virtual shelf and say, hey, I want 6 1/4 inches at the bottom for that space. And that now breaks that into 2 new spaces, which I might just call this one, hey, space, that's all it is. And this one is actually my cabinet. And then come back and put the cabinet in there.
Sorry, I'm still here. Sorry, I had a phone call come in. Not me, I'm here. Yes.
And so yes, to answer your question, hopefully that shows you that those articles can conform to whatever space you happen to be putting it into. It's just a matter of making the space the size that you want it to fit into.
Yeah. So can
That
you
kind of answer that question?
Yeah, can you lock like your bottom space and then make the cabinet taller, that one, and will it keep, or does it?
So if I wanted, you're saying that you want to have these 3 cabinets stay the way they are, have a space down here, but have this one go up higher.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been nice to know at the beginning, but yeah, certainly. So in this, the way I did this one, we would need to know what that overall size is. So hey, it's actually 40 inches tall, we'll say, but we want these three to stay down the 4 and that space to stay locked. So basically that's the same process. We're just going to create a 4-inch space on the top of these, right?
Okay, that makes sense to us.
Yeah. You don't have to do all that.
And then I'd put them back into that space, and yes, then we'll have that exactly the way you want it. Like everything else, you know, prior planning goes a long ways, obviously. But as we know, architects change their mind all the time.
Absolutely.
Give me about
As
10
we
more
kinda
seconds
go
here, and I'll have those put back in there for you.
Okay.
So really with the article zone, you're just creating the size of the space that you want. You want to put a particular article into a particular size space. Just plan ahead a little bit. That's what I want to do.
Okay. That makes
Same
sense to us.
thing. Same thing. If we wanted to shorten one of these up at the back, then we'd put a partition that goes front to back and make this space smaller in the front and have a space at the back. Same process.
Okay. Another question, and I don't think you're going to be able to show us, and you don't have to. In terms of tooling and how everything is sent to the CNC, like solid surface, for example, we use, you know, a separate tool for the outline than for our normal PLAM parts and everything else. Is that something that you just set up in the Cut-Rite Manager to say for this particular material, we want this tool to do all the outlining, or even all the routes on that particular material?
Yep, you're exactly right. All we're really going to do out of WoodCAD CAM going to Cut-Rite to create that nest is we're going to create default layers. Now we can create tooling inside here for specific cuts. Hey, I want to do this cutout and use a different tool than I have set up for default. So we can do that. But we just send that to Cut-Rite. We tell Cut-Rite, hey, we cut out with our 1/2-inch compression bit all the time. However, when I'm cutting Corian, I want to use something else. So that's what we call a material override. Put a material override inside of Cut-Rite. When it sees that material, it ignores our normal cutout bit and uses whatever we told it to use it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's a real easy and a very common process.
Yep. Another just question in terms of, you know, we do a lot of solid surface or Corian product. To do like routes on the bottom of it, like we do bottom routes for our drop edge. Is that just something as simple as drawing a rectangle and assigning it a route to the bottom side of that material or that countertop that we make?
Yep, you can certainly do it that way. So are you actually miter folding it?
No.
Okay. So you're cutting two separate pieces but adding the route to put the miter on it, right? Or it's a data like a tongue and groove type thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a simple matter of just if you can just draw it in AutoCAD. You can actually have it be part of that part definition. Hey, when I call up this deck, we'll call it a deck, I always want this route this far from the front using this tool. You can do that. And I don't know if you've seen it, but you can also just do things on the fly in AutoCAD if you so desire.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
So for example,
also,
yeah,
for
you can
example,
just draw. If I wanted to do a cutout through all of these ends, I'd just draw it. Yep, go ahead.
For the solid surface, like say you had a countertop at 98 inches long and you had that route on the bottom side and the countertop then grew to 108 inches long. Would that route automatically grow with that lengthening of material with the countertop, or is that a separate adjustment you have to make?
Yep, nope, that would grow automatically. We actually set that up with a linear division, so does it stop so far from the edge or does it just run past?
Runs right to the edge.
Okay. So that would be a linear division of 0 to 1 to 0. Edge all the way across to 0. So it wouldn't matter what size you make that. It's always going to be the full length of the part. Or if you were stopping it, say you wanted to stop at 2 inches from the edge, then it'd be 2 inches to 1 to 2 inches, no matter what size it grows. The 1 represents whatever is left over, so it always grows. If you have specific cutouts, let's say that I'm doing some type of a cutout, and this cutout size can change. So I've created what we call an inner contour for a cutout, but I want to be able to tell it what the length and the depth of that cutout is. Then we can do that with variables. We can drive that with variables. And I think I can show you an example of that.
Okay.
Contours. If I remember where it is. Yeah, nope. Maybe it's down here in my WoodCAD cam. Don't do like me. I always try to teach my students to make folders and, you know, make it so you can find things. All right, so anytime we draw something, what we're looking at here, this is a part that gets a blind dado. I don't know if you do blind dados, but you're probably familiar with them. So it has little, it's not really a rectangle, it has a notch at the front for the blind dado. And so you see that we can, when you create something in WoodCAD CAM, you just simply have to draw the polyline, and it automatically grabs all the data and puts it in the database. At that point, then you can manipulate that data by assigning a variable. And I have this $sign means this is a variable. So that I can change this variable value to change that stop dimension at the front to whatever I want it to be. Same concept for any type of a cutout or part shape or whatever you want it to be. You can assign variables that you can then control either for the entire order, or you can control it article by article.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I can probably show you this when I play if that will help.
Okay.
So let's say that I'll come in here and just draw a one-door base cabinet. I think my default's dowels. So I've got my bottom doweled in here. I can say for this whole order, which changes everything on the order, I have a set of values set up that actually I just have it set up for this base cabinet. Hey, I want to do a dado and a screw. No, I have it set up for everything. And so for this order, I'm going from a dowel construction to a dado screw construction. This is at the order level. This is everything on this particular order. And with those variables, I've just pre-assigned the values that I want to have. All right, so now I'm getting a blind dado, and you can see that the length of my stop dado here isn't very long, and I go back and say, hey, you know, that's what we normally do, but for this one, I need that to be longer. So this goes back to that outline geometry I just showed you that I just drew in AutoCAD and applied variables to. And I just want to change this one, so I can now say article-related variables. Every variable you create has a default value. It can be changed for the entire order, or it can be changed article by article. And I know I have that one somewhere in here, I think dado settings. So I have this at a 1/2 inch, and now I want it to be 2 inches, just for this one article. And since that's applied to that route that I just drew, went in and changed the data and used a variable, so it automatically changes that. It's the same concept for any type of a cutout or any shape that you need. However you want that thing to grow and stretch, you can control it completely.
Okay. As long as you're on the subject of joinery here, I know on some of the videos we've seen where you want like a mitered edge or a mitered corner on a cabinet. How would that actually get set in program? to the CNC, does that actually get cut right to size? Or can you do some type of variable setting to get it to oversize that part for
Gotcha.
that miter?
I understand. So there's a couple of ways to handle this. If you're actually miter folding the part, then of course you do want it cut to the size and we miter fold. If you're just going to cut the parts and oversize them and take them to a table saw and miter them,
Right.
in that case we handle that with material. Yep, we handle that at the material level. So for what we can say is for any given material, say this 1/4 inch MDF, I can put an oversized value X and Y. It won't draw that way, but when it gets set to cut right, those values get added to the cut size of that particular part,
Okay.
whatever you want that value to be.
Okay. That makes sense.
That way you get it drawn one way, but it cuts out a little bigger so you can take it to the table saw and put the miter on it.
That makes sense. I don't know how we're sitting on time, but just a couple other, I know in terms of your reports list that the software generates, you can customize it however you want. Is that correct? You know, display whatever we want on there.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. We are using, just so you're aware, we're using Microsoft SQL Server 2012 Report Builder 3.0.
Okay.
Which is just Microsoft's just their engine to take database information and create a report. Hey, I want this data here. I wanted this font. I want to put this picture there, or whatever it may be.
Okay. In terms of hardware and create new hardware, and let's say a pole, for example, you have a 96 millimeter center-to-center pole, and you now got to make it, instead of vertical, you got to make it horizontal. Is that,
Yep.
you know, every cabinet shop deals with different on-center poles and vertical and horizontal placement. How easy is it to make that adjustment on the fly?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't want to make it too easy for you, but we do have it set as a variable. If I remember where I stuck it here, I moved it to front settings, handle settings. So handle orientation angle. 0 is vertical. If I change that to a 90, and I'm in my defaults, but I can change it at the order level. And if you want to, you can have 2 cabins side by side, one horizontal, one vertical, just using that variable.
Okay. And then you would just have to set the vertical.
Yeah, we kind of
the vertical placement within the door.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It's a linear division that's also controlled with variables.
Okay.
So what's the horizontal distance? What's the vertical distance?
Okay.
We tried to think of all the basic things that everybody would want to do with cabinetry. To be honest with you, we didn't put everything in here. There are some things we intentionally left out because we use those as for training purposes, and we help you when we do training to set those things up specifically for your company.
Yeah.
Our goal is so that you're not dependent on RSA or Styles or anybody else for your data. We want you to take control of your data and build what you want. We're just going to help you and show you how it works and help you build what you want, so that going down the road, you're doing your own thing.
Okay. The one other question I have that I can think of right now is, in the videos we saw, like auto dimensioning in plan view, elevation view, and section view. Can you control
Yep.
what is auto dimensioned? You know, say you don't want the countertop to be dimensioned on every section, or can you control that, or is that just, it is what it is?
It is what it is. Sorry, I'd like to tell you different. It is something that we're working on. I know that Sean has been working with the Germans diligently on giving us a better control interface, but currently, right this second, it is what it is. We're hopeful to get some improvements to that. Sean says that he's seen some great improvement on it, but it's not out yet. Will it be out next week? Don't know. Will it be out next year? Don't know. It's software, so.
Right. And then you're talking
It is
about,
coming at some point, so you have better control.
You're talking about upgrades to the software now. Is that like version releases, or is that just packages that get released into the software itself?
Yep. It's typically just patches. They'll do a major, if they make a major change to the program, that's a version, like we're running version 12 now. 18 months ago it was version 11. So if they have a major version change, then we'll get a version. But if it's just some added functionality or a bug fix, it's called a patch. They don't come out very often. I'm gonna say they do maybe a half a dozen a year for new versions. At some point, you know, I haven't seen a new patch for this one for a little while, so.
Okay.
Do you have anything else? Really?
No. Just as far as like things that are drawing, like how.
So another one of our questions in terms of how you set up, like say a simple submittal drawing, how you set it up, you know, all your plan view, elevation views, section views. I mean, that obviously that would have to differ company to company in terms of how your layout is and your pages are laid out. Is there an example you can kind of show us real quick?
Yep, absolutely. We have what we call in our drawing views tab is we let you take your 3D objects and turn them into 2D drawings. Everybody likes to work with 2D drawings, so I can say I want to do a 2D plan view of whatever. So I get a plan view, I can do an elevation of that. And of course there are some options over here that you can play with and see what you like and what you don't like. If I'm doing, you know, if I'm doing a U-shaped room, what direction do I want to look?
Okay.
Cross sections. You can create a cross section of, you know, any 2D elevation. Where do you want to cut it? And then I can pick on whichever side of the line. If I want to look to the left, I'd pick over here. If I want to look to the right, I'd pick over there. Kind of up to you which way you want to see it. Give it a name, A, B, C, D, whatever. We can do, I mean, we have some just basic hatching. You can do custom hatching. I have mine set to put the actual material name. It's real small, so you wouldn't see it on a print. It's like a black line, but I can look at it when I go to production to make sure, hey, I do have the right material assigned.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether it's a standard cabinet or it's a die wall, so I could do the same thing with this. Hey, I want to do a 2D plan view of this guy.
Larry, to go back to the cabinet, is there a way on your, say, elevation view to see if it's a finished end? Or how are you able to distinguish if it's a finished end or an unfinished end?
Yeah, no, we don't have an automatic tag to put finished end on here. For the engineers, what I usually help them set up is you can go to a realistic view. Like right now, I can see that this left end is finished by looking at it that way. That is an article-specific variable because I only want to finish, hey, just the left end. I don't want to finish all of the
Just for
way.
argument's sake, that you had, 8 cabinets in a row, all base cabinets. How do you know that the middle cabinets don't have finished ends on accident?
It can't be on accident. You have to go through the process I'm doing right now to put the finished in. We set everything up so that it's not finished to begin with, so that you have to say, hey, I want to finish left or finish right or finish both. There's no way to accidentally do it. Don't let anybody tell you that it is accidental.
Okay.
And then, of course, as the engineer, I can look at that in a realistic view, and I've applied a material so I can see that, hey, yeah, it is finished now.
So
But as
then,
far as putting a
again,
tag over here on the elevation, no.
okay, and then, so like, as an example now, if you take that cabinet and you would copy that cabinet and place it on the right side of that existing one, would the left end be finished,
Yep.
or would it unfinished?
It would be finished because I'm making a copy of it. If I put
Okay.
another one in from the library and put it to the right now, it's not. But if I make a copy of it, it's an exact duplicate.
Okay.
And I did want to show you though that if you once you've done your 2D drawings, if you make changes, so let's say I come back and I modify this guy and I make him bigger for whatever reason. Hey, he's 31 inches. I know it's one door, I wouldn't do that, but so it automatically knows that we have associated sections, plan views, and elevations, and it wants to know if we want to update those. So we'll automatically update all of our 2D drawings to match whatever changes you made.
Okay.
Okay, so we do keep those tagged. And you see you can make plan elevation section off of anything you've created. It
Yep.
doesn't have to be a cabinet. This die wall can make the elevation off of that, whatever you want to do. Where do you want to cut section? What's it look like?
Okay. That makes sense.
I don't know if you saw this feature too, but I will show you real quick. We did do this die wall. I'll go back to the Object Designer, and let's say that we did have some change. Let's say that this over here got shorter or longer or whatever it may be. So I'm just using an AutoCAD stretch command there to stretch that information. When I turn my parts on, I see that they're not. However, I can come back and select that. Object Designer and just refresh that construction. And it'll come back and reflect all those changes. So it's real easy to change even custom built things like that. And of course it wants to know if I want to change that too, so it did.
All right. I think we went through just about everything on our list here. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now to ask you that I haven't seen this right now.
Yep, no worries. I would say if something comes up, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll try to answer it for you, give you some snapshots, whatever you need.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
Okay, hey Brian, who all was in the meeting that was watching this?
It was me and then another drafter, John Campa.
Okay, all right. All right, well, I'm going to go back to Joe and let him know we had a meeting, and I think did we get all your questions answered?
Yeah, I mean, everything that was on my list, it was either answered or I can see that it can be done. It's
Okay.
just, learning the program and learning how to work it.
Right. Exactly. A curiosity, how are you currently doing your die walls? Are you doing them in AutoCAD?
No, we're doing them in Cabinet Vision. We lay everything out in AutoCAD and then we bring that CAD into Cabinet Vision and build it. But essentially we build it part by part. We build a bottom plate, we build a top plate, each stud, each front panel, back panel individually.
So you build it one part at a time?
Exactly.
Okay.
You can copy parts, so the parts that are similar, you don't have to remake every part. But
Right. Right. How did you feel this compares to that?
It seems a lot easier. I mean, especially in terms of if the wall structure would shrink or grow, it seems a lot easier to modify it.
Yeah. I hadn't seen Larry do that modification on the die wall the way he did it. But one of the things that I know that this system does is when you do field adjustments, it adjusts the doors properly, not just by, I have 3 units, maybe 2 or 2 doors and 1 or 1 door, and divvy up the differences in 3 in a third, but it figures out the proper divide based on the number of doors and spreads it that way, or shrinks it that way, which is unique.
Yep.
Also, I think that doing the field adjustments is rather easy in this system versus anything else you got, anything else out there.
Yeah, it seems to be very easy or user-friendly once you get it. Once you get the object that you have, the general shape and general size of something changes, it's very easy to adjust it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, guys, we appreciate your time, and I'll be catching up with you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Roger.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Brian. See you. Larry, thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time. Appreciate it.
No problem. Good talking to you guys.
All right. Thanks. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye.
Bye.